So we're back again with another video. This time it's part 2 of the exhaust build. So the first video you would have seen would have been the dump pipe and wastegate fabrication. That's obviously installed now. In this video I'm going to show the dump pipe all the way to the back here. So there's a lot involved in this. You can see right here, this is incredibly complex. There's a lot going on at the back of the car. And I'm going to run through everything, how this works, valved muffler setup, straight pipe setup, everything, all the hangers, a lot of detail in this video. So please hang around and enjoy it. And yeah, I'm very proud of this one. I'm excited to show you. So the first part for the actual exhaust system will be to make a merge out of the dump pipe here. So we have a 4-inch V-band kit at the base of the 4-inch dump pipe, but underneath the car, I want to run this car quite low. I would really need probably a 3.5-inch exhaust on this car for the power level that I'm aiming for, around 600-ish horsepower, whatever this turbo will make really. And definitely want to future-proof it as well if I ever want to go bigger power. So I don't want to be restrictive in the exhaust. So this is going to be a twin pipe exhaust system to get ground clearance. So I'm going to run twin 2.5-inch pipes under the car. As you can see, a lot closer to being up next to the chassis rail. The fun part is merging them, obviously. One of my pet peeves when I see people fabricating is a very simple thing. These come with a printed bit of writing on them. It's just a bit of ink. I just have some thinners on an old rag and you can literally just wipe that off. It takes 2 seconds and you don't have ugly writing on your pipework when you're finished with it. So just take the time and it's so much nicer. It just disappears just like that. And if you do leave that on there and you cut and weld right where that text is, then the heat of the weld will then stain that ink into the material and you'll never get it off unless you polish it out or sand it out. So it's like 2 seconds when you start making something out of stainless. So I just make it a habit every time now. Where this merge is going to happen, it's also at the point where I want this to be turning underneath the car as well. So I've made life hard for myself as per usual, but that's fine. I like a challenge. So I've cut a 90-degree bend in half to give me 245-ish degree bends. The straight will get us down onto the plane that we need to be on to get under the car. These will now split out each way. Obviously the gap between them won't be that wide because these will need to be notched throughout the center here so that they overlap one another to make the width of the V-band here. So once they're notched together, tacked into this flange, we'll then start making patch pieces to merge on the top and bottom between these two. But you'll see what I mean as I go. Now that both of these are notched nicely, I've put a little tack on each side to hold this together now. Very happy with how the fit up has worked out with these. The angle's a little funny on the bottom, but that'll get sanded flat anyway. And now this will go on the flange. I will cut this a bit more flat across here and tack it on. And then once that's done, we can start making some infill plates to go out and around into the 4-inch V-band. So obviously the top and bottom side will need some plates made and welded in. So after much trimming and shaping and whatnot with the cardboard, finally have the template for this lower section all made up. So that will go in place like this, wrapping around the flange. Once I trace this onto the bit of stainless, we'll cut this out and then fine tune it with some linishing sanding. Then cut this section out of these 2 tubes tack that in place. Obviously do the same for the top, and then a whole lot of welding, a whole lot of purging, and try and make the inside as smooth and beautiful as the outside. So we've gone from this to this. Beautiful. You can see that this will now sit nicely in place there. The inside now is cut back. I will tack this on now and then do some nice porting to match this all so that it doesn't have these jagged edges anymore. And then once that's all smoothed out and I do a really nice purge on this and weld it, all these edges should melt through and have like a nice rounded finish on them, hopefully. So now the inside of this is all ported smooth. It's a little messy, but at the end of the day, it's the inside of an exhaust, so I'm not too stressed. It's turned out even better than I expected. All the welding is very nice, a little bit of coloring, but man, it's so hard to avoid that on stainless, especially there, that's annoying, but all welded up very beautifully. And the purge on the inside, oh, look at that. So happy with that, gorgeous. That is going to flow beautifully and be strong forever. This is going to be bulletproof. Very happy with that. Very excited to get this on the car. So much work just in this one piece. That's just the beginning of the exhaust system. Like I didn't count, but there's so many hours just in this, just in a merge. This is now going to be twin pipes all the way to the back of the car through stainless steel to the diff, and then it will be titanium from the diff to the rear bumper. This is for a couple of reasons. One, just that stainless steel is a lot more durable with touching the ground, as this car will be quite low. So any dragging, scraping, all that sort of stuff that's inevitable, this will be able to put up with that abuse, whereas titanium will be more likely to crack or split. The titanium at the back will give a nice exhaust note as well. It's a bit more raspy, a bit more tinny, kind of exotic sounding. So very excited to hear that eventually, but now we've got to get to that section. So this is just going to be very simple, twin pipes. It's going to zigzag through the tunnel, a couple of bends to the diff. It's pretty straightforward. So using these mandrel bends, I might surprise some of you by saying, when I'm marking them out, it's all basically just by eyesight. I'm just sort of sitting things in place, looking where they need to be and marking them out. So this is that section all tacked up. This bend straight off the bandsaw and then just prepped clean. Didn't have to adjust the angle at all, but to be fair, this is sort of like, this is aiming this pipe into a pretty big void here. So like there was a lot of leeway for that angle to be a little bit off. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I've tacked that next bit of straight on. That'll obviously then get a bend to shoot back towards the back of the car, then more zigzagging. But this is the first section tacked up. I'll now weld these two on the rotator, because obviously you can't spin a full exhaust around on the rotating machine, but I can do as many as I can, make the nicest welds possible. I've also cleaned this with degreaser and water. I didn't film it because it's literally just cleaning a bit of tube, but that'll make it nice and shiny. Then I can tack this onto the collector here and then start making the next pipe in the same fashion, just on the other side to match it. So obviously these two welds are now finished. You saw in the previous clip, in the rotator, I've now tacked this onto the branch up here, how it's going to sit. It sort of tapers uphill a little bit here. It might be hard to see from that angle, but that's because I want to give the exhaust as much clearance as possible in the very center of the car, because that's where things will scrape the most when you go over speed humps and whatnot. I've also gone ahead and made up the next section as well, which is just another piece, the same. Obviously still needs to be welded, but that is then going to be tacked in the same. Maybe nearly half of the length of the exhaust made now, so very happy with this. It's tucked up nice and high in the on the underside of the car to try and minimize scraping on things. There's just a cable tie around the tail shaft right now just to hold it up. I really like to keep a parallel distance between straight pipes usually, because it's just more aesthetically pleasing. But sometimes that's not possible. At the back here, the sway bar has this notch in it for the exhaust to pass through. Being twin pipe, obviously, it's a bit tight everywhere, so I'm going to have to bunch these two pipes together very tightly at the back here, especially through the rear subframe where it passes through the rear cradle and under the diff and everything. So that'll all be basically the two pipes touching together. So this bend has a little bit more than this bend, just to bring this in close. So you can see that that will sit like that, and this pipe will taper in nicely and give us clearance on the sway bar here. And then I'll bring this through, turn it up towards where the muffler will sit. Then the stainless section will be done. There'll be a little hanger here, and then we can start on the fun part, the titanium. This next little section has been made up. This is tucked up nice and snug in the cradle. I usually would give more clearance to things on customer cars, but this being my own car, if it rattles a little bit, whatever, I just want maximum ground clearance. So that's tucked up nicely. Obviously there's just enough space for another pipe to come through here. But the next little thing is this hanger, which will have this piece of round bar go through here and then get welded on the inside there. But to stop this from slipping off, I'm now going to put the round bar in the lathe and drill and tap a thread into the center of it, and then a bolt will go in there with a big washer, so that will hold this captive. And then the rubber will sit against the exhaust, so that'll stop the exhaust from being able to move too far side to side. Obviously the rubber has like a bit of deflection, but that'll keep this exhaust sort of where I want it. Had this idea in my head of how to do this. So I'm using some valves that I've never used before. These are titanium, which is very exciting. There'll be two of these, obviously, so twin exhaust, so two valves that will be leading into this custom muffler that I've had made. You can see that it has 4 branches going through it. That's for a good reason. It's a little bit weird, but hear me out. I'm going to have the exhaust come in the bottom, 2 ports, valve on each side, and then at the valve there will be a branch that wraps around the exhaust and back into the tailpipes out the rear bumper. And I'm going to add these 180-degree piecart titanium bends, trying to keep it tight. It's going to pass through the muffler, out, back around and back through the muffler again, and then out the rear tailpipes. So it'll be a twin pass muffler with twin pipes. So that's why it has the 4 runners going through the muffler. So that's to try and keep it as quiet as humanly possible when the muffler is activated, because this car will be needed to be driven in quiet situations as well as loud. So this is a street car as well as a track car. So I need to make this versatile. These are controlled by switches in the dash, which I've already wired up. There's 2 little buttons, so you can individually activate each side as well. So I can have this half quiet, or full loud. So that'll be cool to have a little bit of, I guess, tunability, you could say, over the exhaust note. But I'm very excited. Even just having the straight pipe section in titanium will sound really cool. I'm very excited for that. And yeah, I'll show you how I'm gonna do all of this. Man, how good. I'm just so stoked with these welds. They're probably some of the best, most consistent titanium welds I've done. Obviously being on the rotator with the trailing cup, it's sort of putting things on easy mode, but even then it's still, you can kind of see here, the toe of the weld, there's a bit of a wiggle in it. It's really hard to get that like crisp, straight edge, so I'm pretty over the moon with that. It's going to look really cool under the back of the car once these are all in there. Obviously, there's still quite a lot of welding to do just to get to the point of having these ready to put in, but it's part of the fun and I'm very happy with it. So now that we have the bends all welded up, very happy with those. These will then loop around the sides of the muffler. So if you can picture this muffler obviously pointing towards the back of the car, this being the rear, this being the entry, the two pipes coming from the engine will go in and enter the two top pipes here. That will then pass through, come out this side, have a bend there, and then this straight will come along here, back down the bottom. The other two bends will then wrap this back into the bottom two, and then these will pass out the bottom, and then those will go to the tailpipes out the rear bumper. So twin pass through the muffler. Now this is all welded up, welded to the muffler itself, so that's locked in place. They're not moving now. I can finally sit this up underneath the back of the car, get it on these stands, sitting up under there, and we can start to, well, first of all, I'm going to finalize the stainless section of the exhaust. So where this comes up, there will be a V-band on each side, and then those pipes will be the bypasses around this muffler setup, and then there'll be branches that go into the muffler, but I'll explain all of that once it's in there. Next step is getting this sitting where I want it. So one thing I find myself doing a lot is making things and then not filming them. And I made this hanger and I bent it up to fit perfectly in that rubber exhaust hanger there, and then tacked it on. And I thought to myself, no one cares about seeing that little detail work. And then I also thought, oh, people are always complaining about not seeing the little details. So I should be more diligent with my filming, and I'm sorry. But for this next quick little bit, I'm going to branch across from that side and make a little bracket, or a little bit of round bar that welds from this to this side of the exhaust, just to give it a bit of extra bracing. So I'll show you that section. So excuse the bad camera angle, it's kind of hard to get in here with the muffler and everything, but I like to run the bit of round bar along it at a certain point so I can put like a nice long stitch weld on it. And then I'm going to put a bend in it around here, and then it'll bend out and land on this other pipe. That will then get welded obviously onto that pipe, this pipe. That'll kind of triangulate everything, but it's pretty basic, especially in instances like this. Like I'll just sit it on there. Obviously that's probably give it like 30-ish mil to get a nice weld on it. I'll go put this in the bender, give it a bit of a kink in it, Then I'll be able to sit it back in there, roughly mark out where that needs to be cut, start doing the cut, and then bending more, cutting more until it fits against this inside pipe. This is my round bar bender. It's from TMR Tools, it's called the Machete. It's very basic, it's just a handle with these pins. It can be disassembled, but it's awesome. You just grab it in the vise, obviously get your mark, line it up with the pivot point, get that rotated to where I want it to be, and then you literally just pull on it and it gives you a bend. Very straightforward, very easy to use. So that's just been cut with an angle grinder and then cleaned up with a linisher, very basic. You can see now that this will weld up against that flange there nicely. So it's pretty cool seeing the stainless section of the exhaust all finished now. It's all completely welded. See, the hanger's all done. This hanger's done. All the separators are in. And it's tucked up quite nicely. So I've gone ahead and tacked up this section here, which is, luckily this is a little leftover piece from a previous titanium job that I did in the same size at 2.5 inch. And then obviously just cut another bend from a little mandrel that I ordered for this job. This will now be the first section to the titanium part of the main exhaust. This is obviously the valve, which will get welded on here. That's going to be the first section. The plug goes in here. I'll have to drill holes in the car to run the wiring for the valves, but that's okay. It's easy enough. So next step, weld these two joints, tack this on, weld that. So this whole section's done. And then I will clamp this into place tight, and then I can start doing the branch from this side of this titanium pipe up into the back of the muffler there, where the bypass will be for when this valve is shut. It'll then use the muffler. So it's going to be a bit hard to see, but this is the next section. This branch will go up in here. That notch fits onto this pipe, and then this back side of it goes up on the back of the muffler here. That'll fit in just like this. So you can see that's on the muffler and then up in the top there. So this is the section pulled back out, obviously now. This is the bit all welded. That will go there, mark that in the car, this obviously into the muffler. I'll now cut this, bolt this back into the car, and then tack both sides so that it's all ready to go, and we can start welding. Now that I have this rear bypass section tacked in, and this is all sort of holding itself in place now, I'd like to do the final weld on this branch so that that's locked in position before welding the opposite side, as if I do them both and then weld it, they might twist and pull a little bit and then have a little bit of misalignment. So if you can weld one side completely before fabricating the other side, then this will have done all the moving it's ever going to do. But because it's only got that one branch in there, it gives it a lot more risk of moving while welding. So the next step is I'm going to make the rear pipe that comes off the muffler out the back, the rear tailpipe. And then obviously from this, there will be the branch that comes around off this valve, ducts back in here, and then re-enters the tailpipe before it goes out the rear end, so that I can run the straight pipe setup through this or the muffler through it. So making this fit and then making that pipe is the next step. Then I'll pull this off, weld this whole single side, and then do the same for the other side of the exhaust. I've got these 2-inch to 3-inch reducer fittings. They're just off the shelf items, and then some 3-inch pipe. I've stepped it up to a nice big size because the twin 3-inch fills the rear bumper opening nicely, and it just gives it a nice look out the back of the car. So the other thing that I'll need to do is, because I plan on polishing these two pipes coming out the back, I want these to be nice and shiny, but I need to do the final cut before I polish it because I want the end of it to be nice. So I've got this tacked up now. I've linished the end of this a little bit just to get the angle of it right, pointing out the rear bumper. One thing I like to do, line up the seam of the pipe and the join and have that facing inwards, and then on the left pipe I'll do the same, as these pipes will be almost touching each other. So that seam is like obviously the most unsightly part. You don't want to be looking at, like, you don't want to put it on top and then see that seam there. It's ugly. I can put it downwards sometimes, but then when you look into the pipe, you can see that seam there as well. So to best hide it, I like to do them inwards to each other. Obviously, if it was a single pipe exhaust, I'd just point it down. But in this case, they'll be facing each other and you won't be able to look in there because there'll be another pipe there. So that's the plan. I have that rotated this way now. That will sit in here. I don't want it quite this long. I'm going to cut it back with a bit of a, like an angle in it, but the angle will match as this pipe sticks upwards out of the car. I want that angle to be 90 degrees with the ground. So I'm going to sit that in there, mark the top where I want it, and then bring the exhaust back up to eye level. And then once it's sitting next to my eye, I can eye sight it, mark it with the Sharpie, and then cut it on the saw. And then once it's cut on the saw, I will have that angle marked so I can cut the next one exactly the same angle, and they will both match. The other thing I want to mention as well is that obviously this height of the bumper is quite tall, and I'm having this fit around here, so there's a lot of bumper hanging below, which is a little bit of a weird look. It's kind of one of those things that's a bit of a personal preference. If you have it down here at the base, it kind of looks a bit funny having the gap above it. Kind of maybe looks best in the middle, but my problem is that I plan on running both this bumper and the stock bumper, as when this car's on the street, I want to be able to run the stock kit as well, so that it's a bit of like an OEM plus look and it's a bit less like huge and aggressive for street driving. So this point here is actually the same as the standard rear bumper. So if I was to have this hanging down and then this big edge is now gone because I've put a stock bar on it, it's going to look like it's just hanging in the middle of nowhere. So I'm tucking this up nice and high so that when the factory bumper is on there, it still looks reasonable. The other thing is as well, when cutting this back, I don't want it sticking out super long because this kind of covers a lot of the pipe. But once that's gone, the pipe's going to be a lot more visible and it's going to make the exhaust look a lot longer. So you need to factor in how the car is going to look with both different bumpers on it as well. You'll have to excuse how dirty the bandsaw is. I haven't had a chance to clean it lately because I've been doing a lot of work, but so that you can see, another benefit of using the seam on the inside like this is that that gives you a perfect reference point to point straight upwards. You can see here that the cut line is obviously not in line, but on this bandsaw you can unlock that with a shifter and then swing the jaws so that it'll turn the pipe and cut it in that plane. That'll be the next step. Some bandsaws you unlock the blade itself and the whole head of the bandsaw pivots, but this one, it's this section. So we'll give this a cut, clean that end up, polish that pipe, and then tack it in place. So after spending much longer than I would have liked to have, I've got this shining pretty good. It's obviously not mirror polish, but it's a lot shinier than it was before. So this will now sit up in here. Pretty happy with that length and the cut angle on the end. So now I will weld this end on, and then I can tack this in the car in the position that I want it. Then pull this off, weld that, and then I can start making that branch to loop around from the branch into the tailpipe. And then that'll be one side of the exhaust, one side of the muffler fully finished. I I got a little carried away again and forgot to film this, but it's just me tacking this on. Obviously I've got it sitting on the side where it'll be. You can see kinda that the seam is on the side. It's almost polished out, but it's in there. Yeah, real happy with that. Now the next thing is to notch this bend into the tailpipe, and then that will join up to the valve. Once I've made this branch, I'll pull this all back off the car, weld this whole side of the muffler, put it back on, and then I'll be able to fab the other side with it all solidified on this side and locked in place. Now, you can see I've made up this branch pipe. I didn't document it because it's just cutting mandrel bends. I've shown you that already in the video, so it's just cutting little bits and pieces. I was lucky enough that the little section that I cut off this, because I didn't quite need 90 because this sort of tapers away from the muffler body, that offcut ended up being the perfect size for this, almost pie cut, but it's a little mandrel bend to go in the middle here, but this will meet the exhaust tip and then into the valve here quite nicely. I'm going to weld this up. Well, I'll give it a quick polish with some Scotch-Brite and some degreaser, then weld this pipe up, and then I can mark it in the car, pull this out, I'll cut the hole here, tack this back in, and then do all that welding. So this took a lot longer to weld than I expected. It's funny, every time I do an intricate titanium job, it just always blows me away, even though it's something that I've done many times. But I'm super happy with how this has turned out. It looks very complex, I understand. And obviously there's still the second pipe to go here and the branch around the back and whatnot, but man, just having this done is such an exciting feat. Now I can get this back in the car. This whole side is welded up solid. Nothing's going to move now. Obviously you can see the branch here for when the valve is closed. And now I can start doing the other side now that I know that this isn't going to move with any welding now. So one of the very last steps is the wiring for the valves in the muffler setup. So I've run these wires all the way through from the dash with the switches. This will come through here. I've worked out that the muffler setup obviously is directly below here, and right around this area will be the best to run the wiring through. Luckily I had one of these grommets lying around. We will punch a hole in this big enough for these to squeeze through, but hopefully still small enough to sort of seal around the cables. I'm going to drill a hole in this area somewhere around here, as that'll drop us out right where one valve is about here and one's about there, so they'll be able to come down, split underneath the car and go to each side. So now that I've put these little ties in there, that's holding the cable away nicely. It should be pretty safe from things hitting it in the boot. Obviously I'll still be careful when I'm packing things in the boot, but trying to keep cables out of the way is always nice. You don't want them flapping around and dangling and getting tangled and stuff. Even though the hole in this grommet's mostly filled by these wires, I'm still going to fill it with some polyurethane Sikaflex glue just to fully seal that off, especially from water as well, driving in the rain, a little bit of water spraying up from the rear wheels or whatever. You don't want moisture inside the car as well, so trying to keep things dry as well as smoke free. So that's just the last little step to this, but apart from that, we're finished here. One of the final jobs to do here is to make the hangers for this rear section. This will get this rubber here. I will be using some titanium round bar that I bought and making up a little hanger and then welding it onto this pipe. That's the easy one. Sadly, at the back here where the factory hanger is, this pipe ended up being in the way and the hanger doesn't have enough space. So I'm going to remount the rubber that would have gone on here on the outside out here, and then maybe make a pin that comes out off the exhaust here and then mount it back through this face. So this is the moment you've been waiting for. It's just under 10 kilos, 9.735 kilos for the entire rear section. Muffler, hangers are welded on now, the valve electronics are all bolted in, whole thing under 10 kilos. So that's really cool. That's a big weight saving. If I was to make this in stainless, I can only imagine it'd be easily double that weight, probably more, to be honest. So I didn't do this as a weight saving experience, but it's just a nice little extra benefit of doing it in titanium. I also did it in titanium, one, for the cool sound that the material gives, and two, just to sort of challenge myself as well. It's one of those difficult materials to work with, but it's very rewarding when you get it right, and I'm pretty confident that I got it right. I'm very happy with this. thanks for watching this video. This project has been insane. I can't even begin to describe how satisfying it is to see this all finished and out of my head. Like, this is something that I'd had in my mind for so long, like trying to think up the best way to fit things and route things and how to do the bypasses, and it's just something that's been floating in my mind for the longest time now. And to have it all finished, done, but I can tick it off my list, amazing. I'm so happy. So thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And yeah, thanks again, guys. I hope to get more videos out. Hopefully the next video will be this thing going to the dyno. Like, we're gonna actually make some power. Obviously it starts and runs now, as you saw in this video. We're gonna see what numbers it makes and see how we can start turning these tires into atmosphere. So I'm very excited. Thanks again.